Now, most teams don't fail because of bad ideas. They fail because they can't agree on which idea to back fast enough to matter. Now, in this video, I want to share the 3 prioritization methods that I keep coming back to. Methods that have helped me cut through the noise, create alignment, and get teams moving at the squad level, with senior leadership, and in the room with customers. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Teresa and I'm a leadership and a career coach based in Melbourne, Australia. And this channel is all about helping you do great work and make sure it's seen. Because effort alone isn't enough. You need clarity, influence, and confidence. And if that sounds useful, make sure to subscribe to this channel for practical strategies you can use at work. So before we dive in, I want to say something that might feel a little bit uncomfortable. Prioritization is not a science, it's a structured conversation. Now, the goal of any prioritization method isn't getting a perfect answer. It is to give your team a shared framework so you can have faster and better conversations. And stop going around in circles, please. A good method does 3 things. It surfaces the right trade-offs, it creates alignment, and it gets you moving. So keep that in mind as we go through each one. So the first method is RICE scoring. And if you've been in product for any length of time, you've probably heard of this one. RICE stands for reach, impact, confidence, and effort. It was co-developed by Sean McBride at Intercom. Their product team was drowning in feature requests. Kind of sound familiar? And then they needed a way to compare wildly different ideas on a level playing field. McBride published the framework publicly and it spread through the product world almost overnight because it solved a real problem. How do you stop prioritizing the loudest voice in the room and start prioritizing what actually matters? Now, the formula is simple. RICE score equals reach times impact times confidence overall divided by effort. Now, this is a method that has worked really well with most of my teams, especially at the squad level. So here's the thing, even though it has a method, you don't need to be a scientist to use it. The formula is a structure, but the real work is the conversation it forces your team to have. So let me walk you through each element actually means, what it's really asking, and why it earns its place in the formula. So the first one is reach. Who and how many will this actually touch? Now, reach is about volume of exposure. It's asking out of all the people this product or platform serves, how many will actually encounter this change? Now, this matters because one of the most common prioritization traps is a building for the loudest person in the room. The one stakeholder, the power user, that one enterprise client, rather than the people who represent the bulk of your user base. Now, reach forces you to get that honest about the audience size before you even talk about the value. Now, for external products, think about what's that percentage of your customer who will hit this feature. Is it everyone who opens the app or only people who go through specific flows? Now, for internal platforms, your customers are your developers or your internal users. So ask the same question. Does this affect every engineer in the org or just a specific team with a specific use case? The logic is identical either way. Now, the next one is impact. When someone hits this, how does it actually move the needle? Now, impact is about the quality of change, not the quantity of people. It's asking for each individual person who encounters this feature or change, how significant it affects their experience, their outcome, their behavior. And when I say move the needle, I mean against a specific metric or business outcome that your team has already defined. Whether it's conversion rates, retention, activation, revenue, or cost reduction, impact only has meaning when it's tied to something that you're actually trying to move. Now, this is where you separate the things that generally shifts how people use a product from things that have just nice to have. Now, the discipline here isn't in the scale, it's in being honest. Don't inflate impact because the idea feels exciting. Asking yourself, if this shipped tomorrow, what would genuinely change for your customer? And would it show up in the metric that matters right now? Be very specific. If you can't articulate what changed for your customer or what metric moves your impact score, it's probably too high. The next one is confidence. How much evidence actually back this idea up? Now, confidence is a reality check baked into the formula. It's not about how excited that you are about the idea or how that senior person is pushing for it. It's asking, what is the quality of evidence behind your reach and impact estimates? Because if you are claiming a massive reach and a high impact, but it's all gut feel confidence, then it's what brings that score back down to earth. Now, in this component, I see lots of teams skip this part, and it's one of the ones that does the most important work. It rewards teams who've done research, who's validated, and who's put in effort into building up their confidence with some real evidence. And the last one is effort. What does it actually cost to build this? Now, effort is the denominator in the formula, and that's exactly what it does. It divides it all. The bigger the effort, the lower your final RISE score. So no matter how strong the other three components are, that's the point. It keeps you honest about the cost side of the equation. So you just can't stack up exciting, high impactful ideas without reckoning with what it actually takes to ship them. Now, effort isn't just engineering time, it's about looking at the whole entire delivery as a whole. What does it actually take to get it across the line? If you need design, data, testing, QA, coordination, it all counts. Every person, every discipline, every hand that has to touch it before it ships. Now let's talk about speaking the same language, getting every component to a number. And this is where the formula either works or falls apart. Now, teams will have reached as a percentage, impact as a label, confidence as a feeling, and effort as a story point. And then they try to multiply everything together and wonder why the formula keeps breaking and doesn't make sense. RISE only works when everyone's using the same numeric language, one common denominator all the way through. So let me show you how to convert each component into a clean number, and you can plug it straight into the formula. So let's look at reach, percentage to decimals. So think of percentage first, then we convert them into numbers. So 100% becomes 1.0. That means that every person, every customer, every internal user will be exposed to this. No exceptions, no targeting. Then you have 50%, which is a 0.5, and that's a targeted feature, a specific flow, a certain user segment, a condition that not everyone meets. And as the percentage drops, so does the decimal points. So 25% is 0.5 and 10% is 0.1. So keep this consistent across everything you are comparing with. So then we look at the impact score, 1, 2, and 3. And this one stays as pretty clean. So let's say 3 is a high impact, that you know that this will have meaningful shift in experience. 2 will be a medium impact, and 1 will be low. So pick a number, no halves, no ranges. So let's move into confidence, evidence level to decimal points. So here's a scale that has really worked for me, and it's deliberately tied to what data you actually have, not how you feel. So let's start with a 5%, 0.05. This is pure gut feel. You've seen something that has worked elsewhere, maybe you've worked in different companies or competitors are doing it, but there's nothing specific your product or customer knows. And this is just purely a hypothesis, and treat it like one. Now the next one is 10%. 0.1. It's a small customer signal. 1 or 2 people have said yes, and I'd like to use it. It's a conversation, a signal, not a proof. And then we'll move to 50%, 0.5. And this is large scale data. We're talking about 1,000 to 2,000 data points, surveys, responses, trend lines, usage patterns that consistently point in one direction. Real evidence that people will use this or that it will improve their experience. Now then we have going up to 80%, 0.8. A/B testing, live data showing behavior differences between real user groups. You're not just estimating anymore, you are actually reading some real results. And lastly, 100% is the number one, fundamental truth. Now, this is reserved for things where no study is really needed because the logic is airtight. So think about it this way. If you're building an e-commerce platform and someone asks whether you should add a payment method or not, there is no version of a shopping cart out there without a way to pay. So that is your 1.0, rare but real. So when I see a team score a feature of 0.5 in confidence, my question is, what would it take to bring that confidence up? Now, I'm not dismissing the gut feel because experience is real and it matters, but what I want to challenge my team is to think about this. Have we done any good practice around actually building some conviction here? Have we looked for signals? Because here's the thing, signals are usually closer than you think. A quick competitive analysis, a conversation with 2 to 3 customers, a trend line that's already sitting in your analytics dashboard. These aren't big research projects. They're things that most teams can already pull quickly. And any one of them can move your confidence score from a gut feel to something that you can actually stand behind. Now, this is also a really good practice is to never rely on gut feel alone. It is to come to the table with whatever evidence signal you have at hand, and I'll say everyone has some. You just have to look for them. So the next one is effort, size to integral. Now think about it in terms of your real team capacity, who actually have, and how long it realistically take them to deliver. And remember, this is the whole team to deliver, not just engineering. So we usually start with 1, which is a small, and that's about a couple of days of work. So I would say less than 5 days of work, or maybe just 5 days. And 2 is a medium, and that's about 2 weeks, so a sprint if you use a sprint format of 2 weeks. 3 is a large, and that's most likely to be a month or 2, no more than a quarter of 3 months. And 4 is extra large, where we think about in terms of a whole entire quarter for the team or a bit more than a quarter. Okay, so let's put it all together. Let's say you're scoring a new in-app search feature. So your reach is probably 80% and users hit the search bar. So that's 0.8. Your impact is most meaningful to improve the core experience. So we'll give it a bit of a 2 as a medium. Confidence, you've got the trend data showing a drop off at the search step, so 0.5 at 50%. And effort is probably, let's just say, a month of work, so we give it a 3. And then we have the overall total score of 0.27. Now run the same formula on every idea in your backlog. The one with the highest score rises to the top, not because it screamed the loudest, but because the number made the case. Now, one pro tip, don't score this in isolation. Do this whole RISE session with your team. Have everyone score independently first and then compare. The gaps in the scores are where your most important conversation live. Now, the second method is value versus effort matrix. And this is one of my go-to with senior leadership and executive conversations. Now, the origin traces back to a broader world of decision-making tools used in management consulting and system thinking for decades. The 2x2 prioritization matrix was popularized through frameworks like the BCG gross share matrix in 1970s and then later adapted into product and agile thinking through the 2000s. Today, it's a staple of design sprints, executive strategy sessions, and product planning worldwide. Now, the concept is beautifully simple. Plot initiatives on a grid. Now, with the y-axis, we plot the value from low to high, and for the x-axis, we plot effort from high to low. And then what you are getting are 4 quadrants. What we call the quick wins, which is high value and low effort. Do these now, they build momentum and prove progress. And then you've got the big bets, which is high value, high effort. These are your strategic long-term plays. But don't abandon them, but they plan for them. They need resources, they need time, and they real commitments. And then you've got these what we call time wasters, low value, high effort. Kill these straight away. Be ruthless. Every hour here is an hour stolen from something that matters. And then we've got what we call fillers. Low value, low effort. Harmless in small dosage, but dangerous when they quietly pile up and eat your capacity. Now, before I even start plotting things with leadership or executive teams, there's something that I always say first and draw it out. You have to think in 3 horizons: the short term, mid-term, and long-term. What are you banking to hit your revenue goal, your growth target, your key business outcome this quarter, this year, and beyond? And why does it matter? Because when senior leadership team looks at that whole entire matrix without that lens, they default to quick wins. They pick everything that feels manageable and familiar. And before you know it, the roadmap is full of optimization and there's nothing in it that actually transforms the business. Now, by anchoring the conversation in short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategies first, the big bets feels less risky and start feeling necessary. People stop asking, is this worth the effort? And start asking, which of these big bets do we need to commit in order to achieve what we said we want to achieve with our outcomes? So here's an example. I've worked with teams where the big bets was about building this AI-powered bot to support their sales funnel end-to-end. Everybody in the room knew that it drove cost reduction and scale, but it was high effort, high complexity, and nobody wants to be the one to own it. The matrix made the conversation honest, and if we don't put this in the plan with real resource behind it, we're choosing not to pursue the outcome we said we wanted. And that changed the dynamic completely. And here's the other thing I want you to take away. You don't need precision to run this session. And when I say that, it's really about estimation of effort here. I mean, it's really about plus or minus 50% variance. You're not writing a whole entire project plan. You're just doing a high-level gut check with someone technical in the room. Everyone knows that rebuilding a search engine from scratch isn't extra large or large. Everybody knows fixing a copy error isn't extra small. So you don't need to break into sprint breakdowns to plot it on a grid. Start with level 1 mapping. Get all your ideas up, guesstimates, efforts, and see where they land. That gives you enough signal to have the right strategic conversations. And then over the following weeks, you go back to the ones that matter and ask, okay, so what's the actual scope here? What would it take to validate this? And what is our confidence level to deliver on this? Once the senior leadership team has agreed on the strategic shape of the roadmap, which are the big bets we're committing, what are the quick wins we are sequencing, and what time wasters we are cutting out, so you can then cascade that down to different teams, to different value streams, and each one picks that up, a problem space, and then breaks it down further. Now, the leadership layout might say that we were investing in AI-driven customer support. The product team picks that up and breaks it into what problems are we trying to focus on, what validations do we need, what is our MVP, what are the phases. And the matrix gave leadership the language, the team do the details, the validation, the proof points, and breaking them down into small problems to solve. Now, I use this one very specifically with senior leadership across all organization sizes. Now, this prioritization gives them a visual, practical language for strategy, one that doesn't require a consultant or 3 months of planning cycle. Just a room, a whiteboard, and having some honest conversation about where we're placing our bets. Now, a few examples of where the value and effort metrics landed. I've worked in a retail tech company where we use this with our leadership team to decide on 3 different directions: a loyalty programming revamp, a new mobile checkout experience, and an AI-driven inventory forecasting engine. Now, the loyalty revamp was defined as a quick win, while mobile checkout was a big bet they've been avoiding. Inventory forecasting kept getting parked as too hard, and mapping it all out visually forced a conversation that the big bet was sitting there quietly, being deprioritized while the team did a lot of fillers. Now, the third method is the one that I save for a very specific moment when working with customers. It's called the KANO model and is built around a question most teams don't ask enough. what do customers actually really care about? Now, the KANO method was developed by Professor Noriaki Kano, a Japanese quality management researcher in 1984 at Toyota Rika University. His paper, Attractive Quality and Must Be Quality, fundamentally changed how product teams think about customer satisfaction. Instead of assuming that more features always equal more satisfaction, Kano showed that the different features affect customers in very different ways, and understanding that difference changes everything about how you build. Now, the model has 3 core categories. The first one is the must-have basic needs. These are table stakes. Customers don't rave about them when they're there, but when they are furious, it's when they're not there. So think about app loading without crashing. Payment process that just works. If you don't nail these basics, nothing else matters. The second one is what we call the performance line. The performance features. The more you do, the happier they get. The less you do, the more dissatisfaction. These scale linearly with satisfaction. So think of it as speed, reliability, and ease of use. The next one is the delighters. Attractive features. Those are the ones that nobody asks for, but everybody loves. They create unexpected joy. They're your wow factors. And here's a catch. Today's delighters become tomorrow's must-have. Customers' expectation moves very, very quickly. And there are also 2 more. Those indifferent features customers don't care about either way, and the reverse features that actually reduce satisfaction for certain segments. Now, knowing these saves you from building things that can actually hurt you. So I use the KANO model in 2 specific situations. The first one is when we're building something brand new with customers, when we are co-designing a product, running discovery, generating floods and tons of customer insights. KANO gives you a way to sort through all these noise and ask what's foundational, what's differentiating, and what is going to really genuinely delight your customers. The second one is when a product is past its foundations and it works, it's stable, and we're just asking what's next. What does customers actually want us to build next? What are the features that will move their satisfaction in a much more meaningful way versus the ones that they are indifferent to? And so by running a KANO survey with real customers, ask them 2 questions about each feature. How do they feel if this feature is present, and how do they feel if this feature is not present? Now, the combination of those answers tell you exactly what particular category it falls into. And it's one of the most customer-centric prioritization tool that I've ever used, and I keep using it. And it keeps you honest about building for your users and not just for internal opinions. So a few examples of where KANO works best for me. Thinking about a team that we used to build a new expense management app, the must-haves, receipt scanning that actually works, accurate categorization, exporting to accounting software. Nobody really asked for those in the survey, it's just their expectation. But then when a team ran a KANO survey, they discovered that the top requested delighter was a one-tap split this expense feature for shared team meals. Nobody had surfaced that in any interview. Now, the survey caught it. Another example is a travel platform that had customer asking for more filters, a classic performance feature. But buried in the data was a delighter, proactive trip disruption alerts sent to customers before they even knew their flight was going to be impacted. Now, 0 customer asked for explicitity, but sometimes KANO's most valuable output isn't what to build, it's what to stop building. So here they are, the 3 methods, the 3 different moments and 3 different problems they solve. RICE is when you need a shared scoring language across your team or leadership table. Value versus effort, when you need to zoom out and see the full strategic picture. KANO, when your customer insights are rich and you need to make a framework just to make sense of it all. So here's what I want to leave with you. The best prioritization method is the one that your team actually uses. Not the most sophisticated one, not the one that's most scientific, the one that gets people into the room talking honestly about trade-offs and then making a call and moving forward. because indecision is always more expensive than an imperfect decision made fast. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe to this channel, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.